So let's close out the show with a Scott Ellia top five. It's not just a top five, it's a top five investigation, folks. Because, look, man, we'll be careful with all of this. There's a lot of allegedly going around in this situation. But there's a viral ring girl that the girl with the cards
Sydney Thomas, put respect on her name.
at boxing matches. Sydney Thomas, yes, she was on. She was at the she was part of the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight, and she was on a podcast recently. And she was talking candidly about how people are always sliding into her DMs and trying to hit her up, and a very prominent SEC head coach slid into her DMs.
Allegedly.
Allegedly slid into her DMs. She did not name the coach. Nobody knows who the coach is. But if you're looking at SEC coaches, there was a name that immediately rang to my head. But I turned this investigation over to Scott Ellia, our college shame day host, our college football expert. And who is an SEC coach? Who are some of the SEC coaches around anyway? Who could have slid into Sydney Thomas's DMs?
You know what? And it could be there's 16 teams in the SEC. It's going to be a little bit of a learning experience for everybody here at the 323, especially if you're not well in depth in the college football, which why should you be? Because we have a great show released every Saturday, taking deep dives in the college football playoff and to stories that are going around in the league at that point in time. So like if you check it out on Saturday, because it's going to be a big one. It's championship weekend. And after that, it's going to be a well-deserved break for everyone here for Shame Day. But the name that came to light, and if you don't, this is a visual experience, right? Like I'm trying to teach you guys about why this person did it or didn't do it. But the name, if you want to check this out, 323 YouTube page, you'll see the whole production value with this presentation that I'm going to give you, Reid, because this is the first time that you're even seeing this.
I'm very excited.
The question that I have,
Lane.
did Lane Kiffin, did he do it?
I didn't.
Because that's the guy who has been allegedly linked to the suspected DM, which honestly, it was just RTR. It was just roll tide roll because, Sydney Thomas goes to Alabama and blah, 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 blah. But to teach everybody at home before we dive deep into this investigation that I took hours to do, and by hours, I mean maybe an hour and a half, the SEC is made up of 16 teams: Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, LSU, Mississippi State, Missouri, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas A&M, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. But Scott, I know the teams. I don't know any of these coaches. Don't you worry. I got you covered. Some of these names, Reid, I'm sure you've seen before, like Alabama. You got Kalen DeBoer, Arkansas, Sam Pittman, Auburn, Hugh Freeze, Billy Napier with Florida, Kirby Smart with Georgia, Mark Stoops with Kentucky, Brian Kelly with LSU, Jeff Lebby with Mississippi State, Eli Drinkwitz with Missouri, Brent Venables in Oklahoma, Lane Kiffin, the prime suspect at Ole Miss, Shane Beamer with South Carolina, Josh Heupel at Tennessee, and Steve Sarkisian at Texas, Mike Elko at Texas A&M, and last but not least, Clark Leah at Vanderbilt. So my question is, Reid, this all transpired on Instagram. So if you're going to be a prime suspect, you need to have at least Instagram at this point. I went through, I verified all this. I can tell you right now that all of these head coaches have Instagram, but a couple of them kind of stuck out at me. And that is Arkansas's Sam Pittman, Kentucky's Mark Stoops, Oklahoma's Brent Venables, and South Carolina's Shane Beamer, because these four have non-verified Instagrams, which means they don't have that little blue check mark. And if you can see by my visual, they don't have the followers that you would expect. Sam Pittman has 10K. Mark Stoops has 16 followers on his Instagram page. Brent Venables has 714, and Shane Beamer has 359 and is also private. So I will say, if you have somebody who has the gall to reach out to somebody on an Instagram DM, you would have a little bit more experience and a little bit more foot presence into the actual meta space as well. Is that too far out of the realm of possibility, Reid? Are you staying with me right now?
I'm with you. Did you request for that private one so we can try? I think we should interview them too.
We can interview all 16 of these and say, okay, did you do it? That's the only question. Did you do it? And then have them go. All right, moving on to the next set of criteria. The age of DMs is such a younger person move. Like the older generation, the boomers, they're the ones that are going to try to wine and dine you. They're going to bring you the roses to your front step. They're going to ask you face to face. They're not going to try to rely on technology. So who brings the boomer? And who puts the boom in boomer? And that is Brian Kelly for LSU, who is 63 years old. Brian Kelly doesn't know what DMs are on Instagram. Come on, get out of here. He's suspect of a lot of things on the field, not off the field. So Brian Kelly, you're safe. Moving forward, if you look at Sydney Thomas, I think she's objectively good looking. And in this day and age, females of that stature have kind of a moniker that's associated them that they might be digging up some sort of shiny metal. They're in it for the greenbacks and whatnot. So for me, if you're even having the audacity to go after somebody in that kind of a realm, you're going to have some money. So I went through, and if you weren't in the top 10 of coaching contracts in the SEC, I'm counting you out because you're not showing them the money. Texas A&M, Mike Elko, $7 million. Auburn's Hugh Freeze at $6.73 million. Mississippi State's Jeff Lebby at $4.25 million. And Vanderbilt's Charklia at $3.19 million. Yes, that is amazing money, but it's not top 10 SEC money. No, sir. Which brings us, Reid, now to the next part of DMs. It's with it being associated with younger folk. It's a very off the cuff, reckless thing to do because you're essentially giving people evidence right there in black and white. You can't dispute it. And at that point in time, with recklessness, I feel like this comes from a party school. So I went through the list. I went through the top 25 party colleges and universities in the United States. So if you did not fall into that list, you're safe. Florida's Billy Napier. Sorry, you're not party rocking. Missouri's Eli Drinkwitz, Tennessee's Josh Heupel, and Texas's Steve Sarkisian. These schools are not in the top 25 party schools in the United States.
Does Josh Heupel give big Shane Gillis vibes?
Right?
He gives big Shane Gillis vibes, and Sark in that picture. I don't know, man. Sark
from that picture, you would expect it.
He's giving scumbag in that picture. I don't know.
You know what? Just because he's guilty of being a scumbag doesn't make him guilty of being a sleazeball. So let's put that to rest right now because he's safe.
My apologies.
From Detective Scott Ellia, which leaves us, if you're doing math at home, we're down to the prime suspects. Alabama's Kalen DeBoer, Georgia's Kirby Smart, and looky here, Ole Miss's Lane Kiffin. These three gentlemen fit the criteria of not being boomers. They have substantial, meta space with their Instagram following. I mean, Kalen DeBoer, he has over 60,000 followers. Georgia's Kirby Smart has 85,000, and Ole Miss's Lane Kiffin, shocking, has 110,000 followers on his Instagram page. All three of these are in the top 10 as far as contracts go for the SEC coaches. But there's one factor that we're not taking into effect. And I know I'm the host of College Shame Day, but we respect the institution of marriage. We don't allow infidelity here, folks. We don't allow this at all. So I went through and I looked at all three of these folks. Two of these three, they're happily married. They got a darling wife at home. They've got kids. They've got families. They're doing this, that, and the fourth, except for one person. Lane Kiffin.
Oh.
He is single and ready to mingle. And look at that face. He just oozes, hitting you up in your DMs. So Lane Kiffin, you did it. We know you did it. And we want the acknowledgement now. And I rest my case.
Nasty dog.
That, I think, is the greatest use of resources, the greatest use of budget, the greatest investigation this show has ever done or been capable of.
Listen, I could have done anything with my time after work today, but here, I am here for the people. I am here for you. I am here hitting the ground running. And by hitting the ground running, I mean getting my fingers typing on my keyboard, and I'm digging deep, and I'm looking through every metric. And at the end of the day, there's only one man who could have done it. and it's Lane Kiffin.
And
that is shameful.
That was fantastic. You deserve the full fanfare all the way for that. And I'll even give you a little Curtis just because you love him.
Curtis.
Oh, good job, Scott. I mean, we all know it's Lane. Everybody knew it was Lane. Almost as soon as she said it, everybody's like, Lane Kiffin.
I mean, if you look at the picture of the DM, it has his profile picture in the DM. So,
well,
because I was thinking, I came from the point of view of like, maybe it's one of these coaches' burner accounts. Maybe they're setting up Lane Kiffin to, for some bad press. Nope.
Lane would do that just publicly. Yeah, he would do that straight up. I'm surprised he's not in her comments. But this is what we do. This is the right way to do it. We knock out every candidate because it could be any SEC coach there. Kalen DeBoer would have been a shock. Kalen DeBoer would have been a pretty big shock.
Well, especially with some very suspect DMs involving his daughter and one of his players.
Well, yeah. And then Kirby Smart, he's been busy winning over there at Georgia. So
yeah, he has no time for that. I mean, he's still mourning the loss of his father. He's still mourning the loss of his season. No.
Kalen DeBoer, I only would have had a little bit of potential there because shit was going so south for Bama this year. Things were going just hectic, despite what the people on TikTok want to argue with us on. Maybe, he got stressed. He was like, Sydney, I need a win. I don't know. I don't know what he was trying to do. If I had to put up a rightful contender right there, it's either, Shane Gillis over there at Tennessee or
pupil.
Yeah, and Sark, but it's 100% Lane. It's 99.9% Lane Kiffin.